Now somewhere there's a mother worried sick about her daughter. Cause when she starts her shift, she's set adrift on dark, uncharted waters. And you can say that she's a hero, but her mom will tell you that she's just another lamb that's being sent to slaughter. And that she'll be damned to see her baby girl be someone else's fodder. And if it has to burn, then let it burn. And she can smile at the shock on all the faces of the people who could not be bothered, who couldn't think outside their sphere of needs and problems, shrug off someone else's fears, and cannot feel enough to grieve another's losses. Well, they won't want to be around when the oppressed rewrite the message, cause it's eat the rich and skin your bosses. Fuck around and find out. You can try to earn a vote or burn a vote and count your losses. But what you pass off as unity is something truly nauseous. It's truly something toxic to a cause so truly conscious. God, look at what we're fighting for. Look inside the heart of who we fight to put in office. And ask yourself just what could be in someone else's heart that makes them fight to try to stop this. What makes them think that they could stop this?
Oh, what a time to be so needed, and what a time to be so used. I didn't know I was a soldier till the sacrifice was over and I didn't get to choose. I didn't get to choose. I didn't get to choose. Maybe that's how it goes. We won't open our eyes, so we're the last ones to know. We're the last ones alive, kept our enemies close, wondered why we don't thrive, while we're grasping at ghosts, counting backwards from 5, counting backwards from 5, counting backwards from 5.
Count back from 5. The theater on fire, the cast on strike. The studio stock starts taking a dive. The contracts tossed and they're gone with the tide. And the heads and execs, their hands are tied. We can't pump this track and treat you right. But what do you expect from the industry type who survive by the leeching of bodies and minds? From those who original thoughts never seem to find. So they're gonna reboot ALF before your wages rise. And it gives cause to pause and reflect on the times. If they're losing control of their fools and their mimes, when all those obedient actors who grew their careers by averting their eyes are now holding the line, along with the authors of countless scripts that strengthen the hand of that corporate grip, squeezing our throats till we take the pen and we accept and consent to the corporate drip. Till you're all up to date on your pharma du jour, till you got a healthy support for the war on your lips. And now you know that the advertisers need more than a rerun summer full of flashback clips. Enter the scans from the year before, all the days of de-aging and mapping the face, and the hours of actors recording their voices are links in the chains that will bind them in place. Now all of those shows are so easy to make. When they got a drone they control that needs no break, it can bend, it can break, and it's cheaply replaced enough up-to-date films all in one take. And those studios bank on us doing our duty, unhinging our jaws and digesting the fakes, because they know that we'll love how synthetic it tastes. Watch as they edit your features without any trace. Not that there's anything you could do anyway. Now watch as they show you a movie you saying shit you would never say. Dystopia boldly accelerates. Maybe you're only a mold, something to fill with a clone, something that Elon would celebrate. Something they own, something they program and code, something that's woefully able to know its exanimate. Cause it doesn't feel touch over top of the laminate. You will not feel an emotion, but they will not scan and examine it. You and the other consumer contaminants fed on the federal diet of Kiev, Havana, and Tiananmen. I can't be the only one weighing the pros of abandonment. I can't be the only one weighing the pros of abandonment.
Where did you think we'd go? Love, there's nowhere to lie. Guess it's not who you know, more it's what you can hide. Like we're chained to the floor, they're streaming us live while we're watching the war, counting backwards from 5. Counting backwards from 5. Counting backwards from 5. Counting backwards. They won't let you go, set you free, send you home. Wait, please say you know what you need is what you owed, and they won't let you go, set you free, send you
I was close enough to smell the fire. Jesus took the wheel and then he kicked me off the ride. I was busy shouting at myself from in the crowd, about to throw down and drag myself outside. I had to give myself the business. When I show myself forgiveness, it goes right between the eyes. Was looking past my shoulder, never focused on the prize. I stalked myself through burning sand the better part of 40 nights. I found myself staring in the mirror, yelling, go into the light. Cause I was in the rear view, staring at the highway, horrified. I was in the road ahead, arms wide, ready to be mummified. Gonna be the fella yelling how he's sick of always betting on his life. I'll also be the guy that brought the dice. Half a dozen chambers and I keep an empty 5. Only needed one to break the ice. Only needed one to clear my mind. Only needed one to stop time.
Wait, please say you know what you need is what you owed, and they won't let you go, set you free, send you home.
That brought the dice.
I know you hated being forced awake. I know they wrapped you in the warmest chains, and I know they're so hard to break. You only said what you were made to say. I can't imagine how you feel today, now that you're watching as it caves away. While you were telling us to keep the faith, I bet you wondered why they made you wait. Ooh, I bet you wondered why they made you wait.
these people?
Who are these people? Wait, it's Monday. Yeah, I'm a psycho, so we're doing another show. Hi, everybody. It's Indy, and that's Reef sitting next to me. Well, sort of. He's in Florida, and I'm in New Jersey, but you think he's sitting next to me because it looks like it. And we're here to do another.
He forgot to share his screen.
Bonus. How do we miss that?
How to do 2 shows in a row in a week.
Yeah, it's a rookie move. I'm still rusty because we were off for a couple of weeks.
How can you be rusty when you just did a thing yesterday?
There's a little bit of rust on there still,
possible?
Mister. All right. Now that's weird that I didn't hear the blah, but it was there. Maybe that's streamer mode. I don't know. Yep. Either that or wait. If I didn't hear that, no, it's because I don't have audio set right. Now I have audio set right so that I can actually hear the soundboard.
We're fucked.
Perfect. Hi, Misty. Good to see you. It's Monday night. It's not Sunday. That's right. Reef made it. Kill your egregores. That's right. Love it. People here from last night that were wondering I was getting yelled at for deciding to do a second show and for taking on additional work for no reason and no pay. Thank you so much, by the way, to Sean Miller for hooking us up with some pay and making sure we did not get no paid for the night. So really appreciate that. If you are able to, we'll start with that. There is our wall of fame. I did not make a graphic yet for the special people that donate on a regular basis, but I plan to do that. Maybe I'll put their names in a different color to showcase them. I think that'll be the way that I do that. But Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, paypal.me/Indie News Network, Cash App, $, Indie News Network, and of course over at innnewsletter.com, where today I put out yesterday's newsletter and today's newsletter. So you can see that. Also, you see IndieMediaToday.com under my name there, under my little guy. That's because that's where you can find all the clips from How Do We Miss That? The article that we're going to read tonight that I wrote is published there, and live stream alerts. So today at noon, all the subscribers to Indie Media Today got an email telling them, hey, there's going to be a special live stream tonight at 10 o'clock. Here's what's going to be in it. And here are all the links to watch it. So stay informed, stay in the know, subscribe to all the things. Thank you. All right. Like I said, we have a whole separate set of stories and show to do tonight because there was so much stuff in the 3 weeks that we were off. Like I couldn't get to all of it. So here's what we're doing. We're gonna do that tonight. We're gonna finish it up. I have a ton of stories. Like we talked a lot about what Trump was up to and how they're persecuting students, what they're doing to journalists, it's a mess. So tonight we're going to start with what happened in Michigan last week. Homes of pro-Palestine activists were raided by the FBI in Michigan. Right? What happened? My screen went black. Okay, it's back. Good.
Why did your... There you go.
It's flicker.
You got it.
I'm okay.
Everything's good.
We're good. No, it's still black, but that's okay. I don't need it. You can see it. All right. So what happened is a Democrat executed this warrant or this whole search. This is out of Left Voice, Indie Media Award honoree, by the way. The best of the best, indiemediaawards.substack.com. Thank you very much. All right. On Wednesday, the FBI, Michigan State Police, and local police, all the piggies working together, raided the homes of multiple pro-Palestine activists in Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti, and Canton. Those who were detained include a member of the Graduate Workers Union of University of Michigan. So this is a further continuation of persecution of students. The raids were at the request of AG Dana Nessel. I believe she used to be a congresswoman. She's currently seeking felony charges against 11 pro-Palestine protesters. All right. This is yet another example that the attacks on democratic rights and the pro-Palestine movement are bipartisan. Right. Because both sides are being paid by AIPAC. Weeks before, an immigration attorney who is also representing the pro-Palestine protesters, Amir Makhled, was temporarily detained by the U.S. Customs and Border Protection officials after he returned from a trip abroad. So we see a theme happening here, a pattern. Why am I hearing myself? I think you're too close to the mic, Reeve. All right. Thank you. In Ypsilanti, FBI agents refused to show a warrant, broke down the door, and entered guns drawn. And I can't show that. I can't show that TikTok because I'm not logged in, and I think you either have to be or they pulled the video down. I'm not sure. But Attorney General Nessel's actions are proof that the movement against Trump and his far-right admin must be class independent and organized and controlled from below. Agreed. In fact, it is precisely the actions of Democratic officials like Nessel who've laid the groundwork for Trump's full frontal attack on international students, academic institutions, and the Department of Education. Again, totally agree here. They're not saying anything that is incorrect. Right? It is bipartisan. The Democrats did set the Republicans up to be able to do all these things. To beat these reactionary attacks, students and workers need to unite their struggles, but they're not, including fighting these felony charges against pro-Palestine protesters in Michigan. We need a united national struggle, coordinated and organized from below. That sounds kumbaya, wonderful, but that's not, again, what's happening. Right now, the pro-Palestine protesters need solidarity. One way people can do that is by calling Nessel's office and demanding that she drop the charges. Okay, a strongly worded letter via telephone. Another way is to pack the court on April 24th. That was last Thursday. We should also look to use the upcoming May Day actions in Detroit. They're apparently planning some kind of a one-day general strike, right? And all across the country to fight a united movement, fighting to end genocide in Palestine and the attack on immigrant communities and international students, and put a stop to Trump's authoritarian and austerity-driven agenda through self-organization and class independence. I don't know if I agree that it's an austerity-driven agenda. They may cut social services, but they're not going to be cutting overall budgets. So how is that austerity? They're going to give massive tax cuts and invest heavily in the military. That's not austerity to me. So, but them coordinating a massive raid with no warrant. Now here, I think they did say that they raided it and that there was they're seeking felony charges. So I guess they got a warrant because there's been a lot of these no warrant things. Plus there's even been stories of an immigration court, children and toddlers representing themselves without lawyers. That's a whole other story. But again,
what?
Bipartisan. Both sides are for this. So this is, again, at a left voice, and you've got the Trump admin with the help of Democrats raiding pro-Palestine protesting students, grad students, etc. Oh, man. So, yeah. Well, that was a short one, and that's not a bad thing. So we get censored for stories like that. We are demonetized on YouTube for stories like that. I heard a couple of people talking about this raid, but not very many. Unfortunately. Yeah, guns drawn. All right. They've never shown any violence or weapons. It's a mess. All right. Colorado People's News has been all over the thing with Dana Nessel. Now we know why Gretchen Whitmer was in the Oval Office last week. Is she still governor? I didn't think she was still governor. I guess she is. Yeah, that could be why she was there. Quite possibly. I mean, I think that they also wanted to try to do something with her. I mean, again, uniparty, and they're all controlled by the same donors. So, all right. Yep. I've got another thing here. Okay, here we go. This is the segment that I was going to do last night. It's a weekly thing, it seems, but we have to get to Fuck Israel segments. So here is the Fuck Israel segment for this week. Bring this over a little bit more.
Hi, Israel.
I wish, but not yet. So this is a friend of ours. I think you might know him on Twitter as 503i7. Good. He's been a friend of the network for a long time, and he wrote this interesting article. He just recently started publishing on Substack, writing a bunch of articles, sometimes even 2 and 3 a day. I mean, he's just like, it's poured out of him. And it's not AI written. He's actually writing these things. So I found this one interesting because this is called A Wolf Who Cried Bomb. And I think you and Colin have talked a little bit about Netanyahu and his history and his, fear mongering at different times in order to warn about an Iranian bomb. Well, what our friend here did was went back and documented each time that started to happen and what he had said and the rhetoric that led up to it and everything. So I thought I would bring that to start. I have a few different things, but this is, look, they're trying to orchestrate a war between the United States and Iran right now. So I thought that it was really relevant to bring this story because you've got Netanyahu really pushing the admin. You've got the administration dumping officials that are fighting the potential fight with Iran, that are saying we don't need to do this and that this is done on behalf of Israel and there is no strategic value to the United States to attack or to get into a war with Iran that does not want war with us, by the way. So our friend starts saying that Benjamin Netanyahu has repeatedly claimed over the years that Iran was on the verge of acquiring a nuclear bomb, often using these assertions to push for the U.S. to make war against Iran. So below is a detailed overview of the instances where he's made such statements. And this is very funny. A Wolf Who Cried Bomb by APAC. Okay. He's the shepherd with MAGA over there.
MAGA sheep.
The Democratic Party should be in there too.
Talking about it for sure.
Okay. So
they're gonna bomb the U.S. Okay, let's look at who actually has fucking Samson options. Let's look at that.
And nuclear weapons, which, by the way, Alan Dershowitz either yesterday or today was interviewed and basically said, well, if there was ever a one-state solution, who would control the nuclear weapons? Thereby admitting that he knows that Israel already has nuclear weapons. Thanks. You just gave up your game. Schmuck. All right. Yeah. So what he says is that he'll critically examine the veracity of these claims, noting discrepancies and the broader context vis-a-vis the specter of a nuclear Iran. Okay. So the name of this publication, by the way, is Life and Polity. Life and Polity. So subscribe there, 50317.substack.com. All right. So 1992, as a Knesset member, Netanyahu was already starting early warnings. Okay. While a member of the Israeli Knesset claimed that Iran was 3 to 5 years away from achieving nuclear weapons capability. And he's got receipts, links to a Times of Israel article right there. All right. This early assertion set the tone for his long-standing focus on Iran as an existential threat to Israel. At the time, Iran's nuclear program was in its nascent stages, and there was little public evidence to support such a precise timeline. Well, but we all know that Israel's spying on Iran the whole time. This claim appears to have been more speculative, likely intended to raise alarm and garner international attention, especially given the lack of detailed intelligence shared publicly at that stage. That doesn't mean that they didn't claim to have it. They just didn't share it. 3 years later, he's continuing his alarm. In 95, he reiterated his concerns, again stating that Iran was 3 to 5 years from nuclear weapons capability. Again, are we detecting a theme here? 3 to 5 years is the way that he seems to fearmonger so that he never actually has to deliver on when they actually possess nuclear weapons. Again, this repetition suggested that he was trying to establish a consistent narrative, but the timeline remaining unchanged over 3 years raises questions about the accuracy of his initial intelligence, right? So he said 3 to 5 years in 92. Now it's 95 and he's saying 3 to 5 years still. Like, what happened? Were you just full of shit last time? I guess so. During this period, Iran was still under international scrutiny, but no concrete evidence emerged to confirm that it was close to a bomb. Of course not. The static timeline could indicate either a lack of updated intelligence or a deliberate deception aimed at increasing tensions between the U.S. and Iran. Iran, of course, did not develop a nuclear bomb within 3 to 5 years, and that's what the narrator said. Right. He then gets invited to address Congress in 1996, and once again, he cries that Iran's acquisition of nuclear weapons could have catastrophic consequences for Israel, the Middle East, and the world, claiming that the deadline for attaining this goal is extremely close. No time frame. Again, while he didn't specify a timeline here, right? The language of immediacy mirror his earlier claims. So again, then you get to 2002. Now you're already post 9/11. No comments there.
Mm-hmm.
In 2002, he briefly shifted focus back to Iraq and then to Iran because he realized that he could capitalize on sending the U.S. into the Middle East and getting them entwined in a war with Iraq, which would eventually entangle them into a war with Iran. Again, talking about Iraq advancing toward the development of nuclear weapons with centrifuges the size of washing machines. Later proven false. No such program existed in Iraq. However, shortly after, he then returned to Iran, stating it was a major threat, though without a, once again, specific timeline in this instance. It's been his goal for 35 years to bring Iran to its knees and to have the U.S. invade Iran and do his dirty work. All right. The lies about Iraq damaged his credibility on such claims, yet he quickly pivoted back to Iran, right, suggesting that nuclear threats to push for military or even diplomatic action. He didn't really want diplomatic. Now he comes back into office. 7 years later, he's raising the alarm again for, now you have a new president. You got Obama coming in. So now he wants to try to control the narrative and control Obama and get Obama under heel. So what does he do? He threatens an Iranian bomb again. Right? As Prime Minister, Netanyahu told a congressional delegation that Iran was, again, here we go, probably 1 or 2 years away from developing nuclear weapons capability, according to State Department cables released by our friends over at WikiLeaks. In another meeting that year, he claimed that Iran had the capability to now make one bomb or could wait and make several bombs in a year or two. Again, completely pulling that out of his asshole. Right. These statements are notable for their specificity, but they contrast with later intelligence assessments, meaning that, again, he completely lied and just made up more detail. Right. For instance, by 2011, departing Mossad chief Meir Dagan stated that an Iranian nuclear weapon was not imminent, directly contradicting Netanyahu's claims. And let me guess, he was gone not long afterwards. This discrepancy suggests either a divergence in intelligence or a deliberate exaggeration to pressure the U.S. and allies. Again, do we see a theme here? Next year, we got 2012, the Red Line. Incoming! We have the Red Line speech at the UN in 2012. Highly publicized address to the UN General Assembly at the end of September. Netanyahu famously used the cartoon bomb diagram to illustrate Iran's nuclear progress, right? Claiming that they were less than a year from developing a nuclear weapon. Again, this is 2012. He started this shit in 1992. He's already, right, 20 years in, and they haven't developed a bomb. He specified that Iran would complete the second stage of uranium enrichment, meaning 20% purity, by next spring or by at most next summer. Right. But then,
sorry,
of
you
course,
mean next Arab Spring.
Right. But then, of course, the UN page is no longer available. What a shock for his address.
404'd it. They 404'd it.
Right. For his own statement. They had to have just reshuffled it, would be my guess, change, but they 404'd the original link. He also told Meet the Press that September that Iran was 6 or 7 months away, 90% of the way there by 2013. Then, of course, you had the agreement that was signed that ensured that they weren't going to develop a bomb for at least 10 years. And then Trump tore that up. So now that gave Netanyahu the ability to start fear-mongering again, claims of secret sites. All right. That was, again, only once Trump tore up the agreement, the JCPOA. There we go. Thank you for bringing it up. In 2018, Netanyahu made several statements alleging Iran's ongoing nuclear ambitions. Again, they didn't have any, or at least publicly and by all stretch of evidence. On April 30th, 2018, he presented what he claimed were stolen Iranian files, asserting that they had lied about its nuclear weapons program and was preserving the knowledge to restart it. Which, again, they could preserve knowledge. That's not illegal. But they hadn't lied about their nuclear weapons program because they had not restarted it until Trump had torn up the JCPOA, like he says here. He didn't claim Iran was currently close to a bomb, but suggested that it could quickly resume if the JCPOA ever expired. How convenient that on September 27th, he accused Iran of maintaining a secret atomic warehouse in Tehran, which is bullshit, implying ongoing nuclear weapons work despite the JCPOA. Weapons inspectors had come in and seen that there was nothing. That's nonsense. On September 9th, a year later, he claimed that a site in Abbey, Iran, where he said experiments where nuclear weapons had occurred, though he hoped that Iran destroyed it after Israel discovered it. Yeah, because they would have spent all that money and time to develop their own program and then destroy it just hearing that Israel discovered it. Without ever anybody seeing it or presenting any evidence that it existed, they would just destroy it in advance. Again, these claims lacked evidence of an imminent bomb. U.S. intelligence and the IAEA also found no violation of the JCPOA at the time and seemed aimed at undermining the deal, especially after the U.S. withdrew from it in 2018. Oh, yeah, we did. We tore it up. Now, Netanyahu finally admits that Netanyahu is claiming that Israel has delayed but not stopped Iran's path to nuclear weapons, claiming that they were again days away from enriching the uranium required for a bomb. It's been 7 years. Like, it's...
Why you always lying?
Stop fucking lying. Hell yeah, man.
Oh my God. Stop fucking lying.
They can't. That's literally, they can't. So this is significant. It is a significant escalation in rhetoric, okay, as it's the shortest timeline he's ever given. Because he realizes that he's closer than ever to actually achieving his goal of goading the U.S. into war with Iran, in my opinion. All right. However, of course, independent verification supports this claim as of April 24th of this year. No surprise there either. He's still pulling it out his asshole.
Funny how that works.
The IAEA has not reported Iran enriching uranium beyond 60%, and we all know that weapons grade is 90%. And experts estimate that Iran would need months, not days, to produce a bomb, even at that stage, which they've never indicated they're still trying to do, even with Hezbollah and the Houthis and Syria going down and everything that's happened on the world stage and all the bluster and all the threats of attacks by Israel. They still have not indicated that they're going to do this, and they haven't created a program publicly to do it, even though they are well within their rights at this point. He says this statement aligns with Netanyahu's pattern of using urgent language to push for action, but its timing amid ongoing tensions and U.S.-Iran nuclear talks suggests a strategic motive rather than a grounded assessment. Yeah, I agree with that. So he breaks it down and says that Netanyahu's repeated claims span over 3 decades without fail. These claims feature timelines that fail to materialize every time. His 92 prediction of prediction of 3 to 5 years has been echoed in various forms, all right, in 2009, in 2012, even this year, yet Iran has still never produced one nuclear weapon in 30 years. He would say that that's because of their efforts, but that's not what's going on. If they ever really tried, they would do it. They'd achieve their goals. I think they were closest when Israel planted that virus across, I think it was in 2013 or 2014, just before the JCPOA got signed. They had a nuclear program that they were planning, and there was some computer virus that was planted across all of their nuclear offices, and it blew up their entire nuclear program. It melted everything down, allegedly.
Mm.
All right.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Right? Nobody knows what's really true because nobody's really on the inside. Intelligence from his own agencies like the 2012 Mossad report and international bodies like the IAEA often contradict his public statements, suggesting again he may be exaggerating the threat to achieve political goals. You think? Such as derailing nuclear deals,
IAEA.
Justifying military action, or right? That's not that would be the worst video game company ever. Or rallying domestic support. That's God. The other thing. Look, or trying to alleviate charges publicly, domestically for himself. Moreover, the broader context reveals a complex interplay of motives. Why? All right. Iran's nuclear program has advanced since the U.S. exited the JCPOA in 2018, a move that Netanyahu supported, but it's still not at the weapons-grade threshold after 7 years. But yet, for some reason, right now, Netanyahu wants to fearmonger that they're closer than ever. Again, Iran insists its program is for peaceful purposes and for power generation. While it has the technical know-how to pursue a bomb, there's no evidence it has done so since 2003, per U.S. intelligence assessments. Our own spies are saying that. Netanyahu's focus on Iran also distracts from Israel's own nuclear arsenal, which remains undeclared and uninspected, a point often raised by Iranian officials like Mohammad Javad Zarif, and also admitted to by Alan Dershowitz just today. Right? So, again, conclusion, while he's provided specific timelines, they haven't borne out. Contradictions with intelligence assessments suggest a pattern of exaggeration or outright lies. His statements appear strategically timed to influence U.S. policy, undermine nuclear agreements, or bolster his domestic standing rather than reflecting a precise actual threat. They even literally took out like diplomats in Iran and got almost no response. Without independent corroboration, their claims should be approached with skepticism. That's healthy skepticism, given the high stakes of military escalation in the region. So again, fuck Bibi, fuck Israel, because they're trying to goad us into a war that they've been trying to goad us into for 3 fucking decades. And this is the guy who's single-handedly been trying to do it.
Yeah.
Now, this definitely belonged in fuck Israel, and it's going to be really depressing, and I'm sorry, but Aya from Challenge the Narrative, ayauk.substack.com. I'm sorry, that was the wrong
Coming
thing.
to a Substack newsletter near you.
That's the one I wanted. All right. In a world of tears, we slowly drown. And just showing just some of the horrors since the ceasefire was lifted that Israel has inflicted on Palestinian children. Saba and Sana, where they look like they're like 4, maybe 5. Twins. Born together, murdered together. Disgusting. This one's bad. This child dead on the floor and no one to collect her body because everyone's dead. Yep. Or this baby, oh God. Thrown from one building to another in a blast and split in half. I'm very sorry. This is not blurred out. This is a child, one child, split into two parts. If the images from the past 24 hours don't wake people up, nothing will. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to show this. That's two halves of a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you gave this child food now, they would never recover. Their brain will be irreversibly damaged. Because look, famine is spreading in Gaza. Gaza doesn't have enough food for the children. 8 weeks of blocking all aid in and out. While the world full of food is watching and doing nothing. Well, not doing nothing. We're watching Israel block the trucks. And nobody's stopping them. This child has no one because the fuckers killed his mother. And this is London.
They might put bullets in aid bags, so...
Mm-hmm. And this is London, where people protesting for the above to stop are arrested and imprisoned, and those who illegally fly post by sticking on lampposts I love IDF stickers can do so freely and openly, supporting a genocidal army of child rapists and murderers. Some non-genocidal person tried to remove the sticker, but the fucker was stuck on so tight they couldn't. Don't worry, though. There are plenty of other lampposts that have them. Okay, that's this. I heart the IDF. Really?
Right.
As humans of the earth do nothing, even the animals are getting fed up of this evil shit. Yes, there was a shark attack on an Israeli army reservist, and then they claimed that all sharks were Hamas. I heard the shark spit him back
rare,
out.
By the way,
I heard the shark spit him back out. Oh, there were all kinds of funny jokes made about that. It's nothing to laugh about. It's sad that shark eating people, but if they're going to eat somebody, baby murderers are a good place to start. All right. Oh, yeah, it was a guy who served in Unit 8200, too, Battalion 8207. So, another Israeli super spy tech guy taken out by a shark. Thanks, sharks. We are such a complete failure in humanity that we have redefined the world, as Aya says. To be human means to be useless, incapable, uncaring. I don't know what else there is to say, and I don't either. I'm kind of stuck and at loss for words, and I'm gonna lean on Caitlin here, who says they're ripping kids in half right in front of us and telling us that we need to be mad at Kneecap and Miss Rachel. Fuck Israel. And so I'm going to bring,
which I'm mad at Kneecap for capitulating and going, we never support Hamas or Hezbollah, but those IRA balaclavas are fine. Okay.
So Caitlin and Tim, Caitlin wrote her latest one, or one of her latest says nobody is allowed to say, nobody say fuck Israel, free Palestine. So I'm going to let Tim do this one. This is a short one. It's about 2.5 minutes, and I adore them, and this is great. And I'll scroll along.
Nobody say fuck Israel, free Palestine.
Here.
Nobody say fuck Israel, free Palestine. Saying fuck Israel, free Palestine is very offensive to people who think genocide is good. When you say fuck Israel, free Palestine, you are hurting the feelings of the people who believe it's fine to bomb every hospital in Gaza. So you must never, ever say fuck Israel, free Palestine. Who do you think you are, saying fuck Israel, free Palestine? Don't you know that by saying fuck Israel, free Palestine, you are causing the people who applaud the deliberate starvation of an entire civilian population to become emotionally upset? Instead of saying fuck Israel, free Palestine, you should try putting yourself in the shoes of the tender-hearted individuals who support the complete ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people. They're just minding their own business, merrily celebrating the carpet bombing of a giant concentration camp full of children, and then you come along and ruin their day by saying, fuck Israel, free Palestine. What a cruel and hateful thing that would be. I mean, all they are doing is cheerleading the mutilation, evisceration, and incineration of children, and the assassination of journalists and medical workers, and the systematic destruction of civilian infrastructure, and the complete flattening of an entire region whose population they are methodically exterminating via bullets, bombs, starvation, and disease. It's not like they're doing anything nasty or disgusting, like saying offensive words. Offensive words like, fuck Israel, free Palestine. So don't say, fuck Israel, free Palestine. Under no circumstances should anyone ever say, fuck Israel, free Palestine. And they must certainly never say, fuck Israel, free Palestine, as many times as they possibly can, every single day until Palestine is free, and get everyone else to say it constantly as well. Again, the phrase you must avoid saying at all costs is, fuck Israel, free Palestine. Fuck Israel, free Palestine.
Remember, you got that? Nobody's allowed to say, fuck Israel, free Palestine. Uh-huh.
What do you say when fuck Israel, free Palestine isn't enough?
Well,
you know?
Israel doesn't have the right to exist.
More importantly, what do you do?
Well, BDS to start.
It's going to need something done. That'd help.
Yeah. Well, you got to do something. And we are certainly not doing nothing. Showing the horrors to the people that deny it or want to bury their head in the sand is something. Making them face it and deal with it. I don't know how much that really has any effect on them, honestly. I think they're monstrous. A lot of them are monstrous people, or they are just unable to rationalize or come to grips with the fact that they have been enabling and empowering and even encouraging this. And the ones that are owning it, man, they are just unabashed about it. And it's so gross to see.
Well, real disgusting.
Yep. So we certainly will not be monetized for showing a segment like that. So if you are able to, and you can support independent media, please do. The best ways to do that are Cash App, $ Indie News Network, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, paypal.me/Indie News Network. You can subscribe monthly or annually at innnewsletter.com for free, or for a monthly subscription for some money, if you can. Thank you so much, really. Yeah, where's the that's White Gladys's cousin? I don't know. I hope so. They're awesome. That shark, baby shark, eating soldiers, Let's do that more, I saw a sign also. I think it was in Thailand. There was a sign on a window that basically said, "IDF soldiers not welcome." And we'll call the cops, basically.
Which will only be used to look, it's anti-Semitic.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So Golden Monarch, I agree. Horrible. I mean, I hated showing those images. I think that, again, we have to show them. You cannot turn away. This is the people. Thank you. Yep. Thank you, Fred.
Hey.
I hope PayPal will actually allow your donation to go through. Fred says you're not allowed to say fuck Israel, free Palestine. That's right. And he's got a bunch of flags on there. $5. Thanks, Fred. Love you, man. Hilarious, but at the same time, not hilarious at all. Yeah, that gets us to 37% of our $2,000 goal towards the year. So thank you for that. All right. What do we got next? Oh, we have the article that I wrote. All right. So we're going to go. It's really interesting because we're going to talk about a class and wealth disparity divide that also overlaps a little bit into fuck Israel, free Palestine to a point. So, I went on vacation with my family last week. That's why I haven't been here for a couple weeks. First, I had COVID, the story, a whole other story. But when I went on vacation, we went down to Florida to visit family and friends. I saw something that jumped out at me more than I'd ever really noticed it before. I mean, I'd always seen these kind of gated slash exclusive communities of townhouses, maybe sometimes around a golf course with a clubhouse and a community pool, etc. And they'd always kind of been around South Florida, and I really hadn't paid very much attention to them. A buddy of mine started, they bought a new construction, and so I paid a little bit more attention. 20 years ago, I actually thought about buying down in the Boca Raton area, right when I had met my wife. I guess I had actually been talking with this buddy of mine about buying down there because he lived about an hour south of there, and I liked the area, and I had no ties other than my family up north, so I was looking at it. In the end, I decided politically I didn't want to be in Florida at all. And that was like when Charlie Crist was governor. Like, it was mid-Libby, it was corporate and still a little weird, Florida man, etc. But I had decided then that wasn't really going to be for me. Plus hurricanes and etc. I wasn't going to move down there. But I had looked at real estate down there, especially in the Boca area. And I noticed that places at the time, and that was, I think, about 2011, maybe 15 years ago, you know, the average 3-bedroom townhouse was somewhere in the $400,000 to $500,000 range in a nice area. You know, like, it wasn't like a ridiculous amount of money for a nice townhouse that had thousands of square feet and multiple bedrooms and bathrooms and a garage and all the amenities. All right. Just to kind of set the stage a little bit. So I've been going down to Florida for a long time. I've been seeing kind of this wealth disparity grow over time. And the traffic and the amount of congestion down there has only increased over those 15 years tremendously.
Yeah.
So my first observation was that there has never seemingly been more of a divide in this country between the haves and the have-nots that we're seeing right now, and it only appears to be heading in a more dangerous direction. Dangerous for the wealthy as well, because what's going to happen is we're going to hit a tipping point. And I'm going to get to that toward the end, but I'll read. Earlier this month, I spent some time in South Florida on vacation with my wife and kids, visiting with family and friends. I noticed that due to its proximity to South America and the Caribbean, South Florida has kind of an international flair that you don't really find in most areas across the country. There's a ton of Spanish and Portuguese as a first language spoken. All right. You know, everyone's tan and it's a warm weather climate. All right. It feels different from much of the rest of the U.S., even like where you live in Tallahassee, you know, in northern Florida. Yeah. Right. In a way that I can't really articulate, but go ahead.
I've lived in rural Florida most of my life, opposed from like Naples, which is the ultra wealthy you're talking about, which I also lived in. And man, is it a different fucking place, you know? So
it's really
South
interesting.
Florida's a different world.
So I looked at this area. Now, this is not Fort Lauderdale. And this is not Miami. This is in between. It's north of Miami and south of Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah,
it's a nice area, all right? But, I mean, how many $1 million properties?
Hollywood.
Right. Hollywood, Aventura, Hallandale Beach. Right. There's a ridiculous amount of money floating around South Florida. I don't think that's a mystery to anyone. The level of opulence and pampering available to the wealthy in some areas would be considered obscene to the average American. I don't think they have any idea just how pampered these people are. Looking at Zillow, within about
Schultz's district.
Yes, within about a 20-mile radius north of Miami, south of Fort Lauderdale, there are more than 900 properties and homes currently for sale listed at $1 million or higher. That's for sale right now. And that's before property taxes, brokerage costs, which, by the way, 6% on $1 million is another $60,000 you've got to lay out. This just burn money. HOA fees, title and inspection fees, insurance, moving costs, and eventually maintenance. You're talking about a huge expense to move to South Florida. right? And just to get into a building and into a new home. 916 results. All right. And mostly, of course, on the water and near the water. All right. There are some that are in the $5 million range. There are some in the $2 million range. Right. And I started to look at, first of all, most of these homes, how big are they? Most of them are 2 to 4 bedrooms, 2 to 4 bathrooms, and less than 3,000 square feet. That's not a huge house by U.S. standards, but they're in a warm weather climate and close to the water, so they command premium prices, which is driven by, of course, market demand. There's also a lot of vacation homes included where the people buying don't even intend for it to be their primary residence, and they're shelling out 7 figures for a vacation home. All right. And there are others.
Snowbirds.
Well, maybe, but others that are still buying out the homes to rent as an investment.
That's what you call them.
We called some of them snowbirds, but others are Airbnb investors that are just renting them out, or, that's short-term rentals. But then there's also long-term rentals where they own a place for 20 years. They have the renters pay off the mortgage in time. And then when they're ready to retire, they basically own the place free and clear. And all they have to do is pay property taxes. It's actually a very smart investment strategy if you could swing it. And I was wondering, how long does it take to close $1 million property? Well, according to Google Assist, it takes about 80 to 90 days to sell a house in South Florida. That's from listing to closing. That's insane. That means you have to have a massive amount of people ready to buy and plunk down all this money that are pre-approved for a mortgage, that are ready to move in and have the available money to pay the moving costs. And you've got to have all these people looking to sell and have somewhere to go. Holy shit. Again, $916 million homes in a 20-mile radius. Who the fuck is buying all these $1 million homes?
Who are these people?
That's what I want to know, Nancy. Who are these people? Last year, my friend and his significant other bought into an exclusive new construction luxury community up north in Boca. Now, that's an hour north of where I'm showing you. The place is beautiful. For that kind of money, it should be. It's brand new.
Beppo?
No, it's not Boca de Beppo. It's Boca Raton. All right. It's brand new. It's state-of-the-art tech.
Beppo.
They're ultra luxurious finishings inside, and it's well designed layout wise because it's brand new. They've taken in all the best design features from all time and put it into it. This entire community of 250 homes was sold out within 2 years, and they started at $1.5 million. So I'll tell a story about this experience at another time, but it was really kind of disgusting. The guy turned out to be a rabid Zionist Israel supporter. And basically, I think I even wrote it here. Said, I drove to this place with the wife and kids. We spent the day at their community pool. My observation was that the overwhelming majority of people that I saw there, and it was crowded, it was also Easter Sunday, were under 50, many with young families. All right. And again, I'll tell another story. I want to write an article about it. I don't know if I really want to. It would really burn that friendship, whatever it was. It would to the ground. And I have reasons where I would be fine with that, but I'm still not sure it's really personal. But what I did notice it's comfortable, but it's a vapid life and incredibly selfish and self-absorbed while it lasts. Because that kind of a life at that kind of expense and that kind of revenue never lasts forever. It doesn't last a long time. Everybody has ebbs and flows when it comes to earnings and money. And when you set yourself up to have that kind of a nut every month, you're setting yourself to at some point come crashing down. I really believe that. So we went to spend the day at the pool, at the community pool. I overheard a conversation between a grandparent in her 70s or even maybe her 80s and someone in the 30s or 40s, one of the fathers with young kids. The elder was unable to comprehend how so many young people can afford places like these. Right? She couldn't figure out anything other than maybe that it was old money and that it was the parents helping, inheritances and wealthy parents. All right. But I and that younger person reminded that person that within the last 5 years, the way the crypto and the stock market's gone, It's entirely possible that a lot of these people bought their homes, basically bought with the growth on NVIDIA and Palantir and Bitcoin and Visa stock and Apple stock. I mean, the stock market's gone crazy. All right. And that's made a ton of wealth. What I was shocked to see was just how much of it is concentrated in Southern Florida. So I did my search just like I did above. All right. Where I looked at $1 million homes in this $20 million, this 20-mile radius. I said, okay, show me all of Boca Raton. And how many $1 million homes are listed on Zillow in all of Boca? Again, from the water all the way out. And this is west of the Florida Turnpike. This is like in the middle of nowhere when it comes to South Florida. This is not close to Miami, not close to Fort Lauderdale. And here's I-95. This is this road right here is 95. That used to be basically anything east of 95 was where the money was. Anything west of 95 was not so much before. Now it's all money. And that's just Boca, by the way. That's Delray Beach above it. And I didn't search. Look, Parkland is all $1 million homes. That's famously where the shooting was. All right. That's all 7 figures. And it's close to Boca. So I'm just looking at Boca here. 778 results, including an estate that has 20 acres for $60 million. Yes, if you have a cool 60 mil, you can pick up a 20-acre, 13-bedroom estate in Boca. 13,000 square feet in the main house. Holy shit. I said, so this elderly lady was flabbergasted at the potential of a 30-year-old or a 35-year-old able to commit to a 30-year mortgage of $1 million or more. And that's going to carry a monthly payment somewhere in the $8,000 to $10,000 and up range, just as a monthly mortgage payment. Apparently, something is happening because someone is buying all these houses. Oh, come on. My stream deck just froze. Come on. Damn it. All right. I was doing the Jimmy. Who are these people? Who are these people? All right. I said there is definitely some kind of an influx of international money going in there. Okay. That's one speculation. Plus, we can't dismiss the potential for
these people.
Thank you, Jimmy. We can't dismiss the potential for BlackRock to scoop up some of these houses, driving up the market price artificially to charge higher rents in the future, further limiting the available supply of affordable housing, right? But there seems to be a concentration of wealth. I hope I didn't just crash. Okay, weird. There seems to be some kind of a concentration of wealth there that you only find in major cities. All right, in South Florida. And even here in South Florida, the wealth seems to be extreme. I really have only seen in New York and LA this level of extremity. All right, where I backed out. I said, okay, Zillow, let's do another search. What's the most that I can search for the minimum value of a home? And as it turns out, it's $18 million. So you can search for $18 million and up homes on Zillow. And when I backed it out to all of South Florida on mostly the East Coast, over 375 homes, again, for sale right now between Miami and Jupiter. All right.
Who are these people?
Miami.
I don't know. Well, again, all the way up to Jupiter. That's Boca. That's West Palm. All right. That's Hollywood and Aventura. That's all the way up. But it is basically what they consider to be the Miami area. 375 $18 million and up homes for sale right now. That's obscene. That's obscene.
You head not too far away, like over on the other coastline, you head to Naples, right? Guess how many golf courses Naples has? 73 private courses,
375 golf courses.
And they have like it's ridiculous. Ridiculous. South Florida's money is insane. I remember living there, and there was a home There was a $6 million home. Someone bought it, destroyed the home, right?
Yep.
Built another $15 million home on the property. Like he's paid $6 million just for the location. Like,
yeah, just for the property.
There was like already a brand new $6 million mansion on it.
Okay, Delray Beach compared to...
It's nutty.
Compared to Boca, compared to all these other places, Delray Beach is a dump. This is a $45 million, 17,000 square foot estate in Delray Beach. That place is a dump by comparison to some of these other areas. What are you doing putting that kind of money into Delray? Anyway,
because it will eventually be like there's a word for this,
right?
You know,
it'll eventually be 100 million.
Why is
and
the word not coming to my brain?
Appreciation,
gentrification. That's the word.
Yes. So who can afford to buy homes for that much? Who is selling homes at such exorbitant prices? Something seems broken here. However, buys and sells are happening all the time.
Who are these people?
I don't know. But let's further back into what you have to earn in order to afford a monthly mortgage payment for $1 million mortgage on $1.5 million place. Because in order to take out $1 million mortgage, you've got to put down 20 to 33% money. So I figure you'll put down a third. That's $500,000 cash you have to come up with to buy one of these places. And then commit to $1 million mortgage over 30 years. Now, banks require your housing costs to be about 25 to 30% of your monthly income to qualify. So they won't even give you a mortgage unless you have enough money to justify it. So that means that for a $10,000 a month payment, that you would need to show an income of $30,000 to $40,000 per month to show that a quarter or even a third of your expenses would go toward housing, and you'd be able to afford the monthly payments without the bank risking default. Because they figure that between car and... Go ahead.
Go look on LinkedIn and see if, like, how many jobs in the area are even paying that.
Right?
They're not. Like, not happening.
So... that's with a third down on $1.5 million. Now, again, you still have to factor in property taxes, brokerage costs, which now that you're up to $1.5 million place, that brokerage cost at 6% is $90,000. Now you're laying out literally $100,000 additionally, burning it on fire. So now that's $1.6 million. All right. HOA fees, title and inspection fees, insurance, the cost to move. And I'm sure you live in a decent place now. And eventually monthly maintenance on your place because things go wrong and things break. What's the air conditioning cost in South Florida, Reef?
I mean, a lot. Like, I mean, it depends on where you're at and how efficient your home is, but electrical power grid stuff here is actually way cheaper than a lot of the country. But I mean, it's up there. You're going to pay out of pocket for a lot, especially on one of those McMansions.
And you're running 24/7.
So,
and not even on a McMansion, on a 3-bedroom apartment, on a 2,500 square foot 3-bedroom apartment even. I said, and remember and understand that costs also go up every year, pretty much across the board, but income doesn't always go up every year.
Property taxes and housing costs, just because there's other rich folks in your area, all jacking all that up.
So this is a mortgage calculator that I did at calculator.net. All right. I plugged in that $1.5 million. That's a current interest rate at 6.7% with a third down on a 30-year fixed loan, 3% property taxes, only $3,000 of homeowners insurance, which might be low, mortgage insurance, which you'll need at a mortgage that big, your HOA fee being at $500 per month, that's $6,000 a year, and I'm factoring in a low cost of $4,000 per year. All right, that adds up to an $11,323 mortgage payment over 30 years. Insane. All right, that's mortgage, property tax, insurance, HOA, and everything. That's your out the door. Your monthly mortgage payment to the bank plus taxes is going to be about 10 grand. Like I said, 10, 11,000. I said, I didn't realize that there were that many jobs paying $350,000 to $500,000 a year in South Florida. But somehow there seems to be a large number of people showing enough income to afford all these mortgages or holding enough cash to buy them outright and somehow cover their expenses. Okay. Getting back, my friend and his significant other actually told me they paid cash for their place because they each sold their apartments that they had owned for a long time, made a bunch of money on that, pulled that together, and were able to pay cash for this ultra wealthy, beautiful place. So all they have are property taxes and monthly expenses. That's a nice way to live if you can afford it.
Right.
Very few people have the ability to do that. So here we get back to my observations after doing all the math, and I'm sorry for geeking out on everybody and boring you with all the $1 million math that we'll never get to afford. But the ultra wealthy have been hard at work brainwashing the network TV watching boomer generation for sure. I'm sorry, Oz. I'm not beating up on the boomer generation. All right. This is real. This is happening.
Stay away from my chickens, Oz.
Stay away from my chickens, Oz. And this is really happening. I spent a few nights watching the 11 o'clock news with my parents, who are both in their 70s and 80s. And the first 15 minutes, it was almost a comical show. They're all fear-mongering about murders at Walgreens, murders on the highway, murder-suicides, school shootings, and hyper-focusing on whatever Trump did that day, and now the weather that's going to be beautiful for the next 7 days. And, of course, it'll rain for an hour in the afternoon, and it'll be very windy at times, and sports with corn pop or whatever the clown's sports guy is. And finally, of course, the human interest story that shows just how awful our society is, but one person managed to overcome it for 5 seconds, so let's showcase that, right? Now, watching that same formulaic news every night before bed definitely has an effect on older, wealthy brains. People who are now living in constant fear of immigrants murdering them. MS-13 is coming. While they manage to live in insulated bubbles where there's practically zero chance of that happening to them. It's hilarious. They're afraid.
Pop was a bad dude.
They're afraid of shit that will never happen to them, or there's almost 0.0002% chance of that happening to them based upon where they go and who they interact with. All right. My thesis for this whole thing is that there has never seemingly again been more of a divide in this country between the haves and have-nots than we're seeing now, and it only appears to be heading in a more dangerous direction. Because what's happening is that in order to insulate and protect themselves from this perceived fear, they're approving cop cities, an increase of police and military budgets and militarization of our police forces, which has impact on all of us. It starts with the gated community. It's done for quote unquote security, because the news, of course, fear-mongered them about their safety being in danger, so they feel like they have to have security for their community. But it's also done to create exclusivity. Most of these gated communities have uniformed, highly trained employees that know to keep their mouths shut and stay in line, or they're quickly replaced. It's like the Django effect. All right. They want to protect that the people that are supporting them and making sure that they live decently. And they do live decently. They don't live well, but they're paid okay. They're paid more than the average. They're paid a living wage, what I would consider. All right. The proximity to that kind of wealth makes these jobs highly sought after, because occasionally a valet that has some brains and talent gets hired by one of the millionaires that lives in his building, and all of a sudden he's set for life and his family gets generational wealth out of that. That's a possibility, and it's why these are sought after. And even within the gated community themselves, some go a step further and have more security at each building within the community, because getting through the front gate isn't enough. You've got to go through at least one other set of gates. And then you have to get through security, and then you get through the doorman before you can even get into a lot of these buildings. But I also claim that the info bubble is just as thick, because there is equally a financial disconnect happening in the U.S. like unlike anything I've ever personally experienced. The ultra wealthy, who have been doing phenomenally well thanks to the stock market and the increase in real estate costs and their assets that have gone sky high in the last 10 years that most of America never holds, all right? They're insulating themselves into a world where they rarely, if ever, engage with anyone who is a genuine threat to them, and their money is empowering them to do it. All power to them for that if they want to do that, but what I don't appreciate is them overfunding the military and the cops to do it. But it also provides them with a level of entitlement and a lack of fear of repercussions for the most monstrous behavior, such as advocating genocide, because they can either just buy their way out of trouble that they may encounter, or they'll use the legal system to their advantage, which they have the resources to do, and sue people for harassment like they're doing in Montreal for saying free Palestine. That leads to their most abhorrent views never being substantially challenged, leaving little chance for dissenting narratives, which is mostly about war and our funding of it and why, ever to make their way through those gates and security. All right?
Damn, boy. Damn, boy. He's thick, boy. That's a thick ass boy. Damn.
It is thick. All right. And let's just remember that the average American, let's go back and let's back this all the way down. Like, what is the average American experiencing? And I had our friend Ryan Knight actually posted a tweet. I don't even know if he's still running that account. Somebody's running it under Proud Socialist. All right. The average American is being priced out of a system that threw them overboard years ago, and they have no lifeboat. COVID wiped a lot of people out financially, too. A recent stat from Statista indicated that the required income to afford a median-priced home at $120,000 a year is almost 50% higher than the median household income. So you need to earn $120,000 a year, but the average American earns $84,000 a year. The average American household, again, that's usually a two-income household, earns $84,000 a year. As Ryan says, or whoever wrote this, the American dream is dead. Cause of death, strangulation by capitalism. All right. This shows how even in, like I was showing, it's never been like this. Income and housing costs had always basically run together, and housing costs very often were less than the average income. That ain't happening now. We have seen a markedly different behavior from the required income to the median household income. Again, assuming that no more than 30% of gross household income goes toward housing costs. So they're again still requiring you to make 10 grand a month, or a family to make 10 grand a month, but the family's only making about 7 grand a month. And then you have health insurance costs that have been going crazy, and all the other costs that have been stacked on top of that. And of course, George Carlin called it more than 20 years ago, and I'd love to play this. I have a feeling that we would get knocked out by YouTube for playing
copyright
this,
claimed.
paying this. I don't know if it's claimed or if they would literally turn off our stream. That's what my worry would be. But, you know, again, they want obedient workers, people who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, longer hours, reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your fucking retirement money.
A balanced budget.
They want it back so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from us sooner or later because they own this fucking place. Here it is. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club. By the way, it's the same club they use to beat you over the head with all day long when they tell you what to believe. All day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy. The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged, and nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. I got to do it like George. Good, honest, hardworking people, white collar, blue collar, doesn't matter what collar shirt you have on. Good, honest, hardworking people continue. These are people of modest means. Continue to elect these rich cocksuckers who don't give a fuck about them. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you at all, at all, at all. You know? And again, nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. That's what the owners count on.
Rat shit, bat shit, dirty old twat. 69 assholes tied in a knot.
Hooray, lizard shit. Fuck. I'll finish it. All right. That's what the owners count on. The fact that Americans will probably remain willfully ignorant of the big red, white, and blue dick that's being jammed up their assholes every day because the owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream because you have to be asleep to believe it.
Sleep to believe it.
Church of Carlin. That's book one. That's Genesis right there. You have to. That is fundamental Carlin. If it, you know, that's what it is. None of the above, man. We need none of the above. And that's and look, the wealth disparity is nobody's doing anything to help the wealth disparity. They're just making themselves wealthier. You can't even get into Congress unless you're a millionaire. I think there are 3 of them that aren't already millionaires. It's like Ilhan, definitely in the Senate. All right. Schatz is the only senator that is not already a millionaire. The guy from Hawaii. He will be soon enough if he's not already. All right. But, you know, there are so many things around that. And again, I didn't even talk about the conversation that I had with my friend who effectively said that he didn't give a shit about what was happening in Gaza and was happy that Israel was doing what it was doing. And in my opinion, this is the kind of person that will end up buying one of Jared Kushner's condos on the Gaza waterfront once they build it on top of the ashes. A fucking disgusting individual. And I will likely write an article about it. I started one. I haven't finished it. I have to be angry and in a certain rage to want to read that or to write that way. I don't know anybody else in independent media that's talking about multi-million-dollar listings and what it's going to do to the average person. And because of that, we get demonetized by YouTube and we have to be funded by you. We don't take sponsor money. We don't take advertiser money. We are accountable only to the people that watch this channel. The best ways to support our channel are through Cash App, $ Indie News Network, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, paypal.me/Indie News Network, and you can also subscribe at innnewsletter.com or at indiemediatoday.com. All right.
Money,
well,
please.
Yeah. Well, somebody's getting money in South Florida for sure. We don't get that. None of us has that kind of money. We know that. You know, again, we all kind of are relying on each other. Thank you, Sean. I really appreciate it. Again,
some people in this country are very, very rich, but most of you are very, very poor.
That's 100% true.
Yep.
All right. The rich, I would yes, with some ketchup maybe or hot sauce. I'm a hot sauce guy.
But how does the Senate vote?
Fuck the poor. That's right. St. George Carlin, the prophet. We got Vicky here. OMB is here. This is great. Yep. Bonus. How do we miss that tonight? Another live show because I'm a lunatic, and Reef can't stop calling me a lunatic for it. Golden Monarch. Lots of crypto douchebags over on Twitter have been comparing buying houses with how many crypto you have of X. F them all. They're part of the problem. Totally agree. All right. Steve Donziger claims that they're now estimating over 300,000 Palestinians killed since October 7th. That's over 600 a day. All right. Yeah. All right. Most are old before they're aware of the big club or the red, white, and blue shaft. Maybe. I think that actually I had a conversation Friday night with Nature Boy that I think that the younger generation is figuring it out earlier. And that's one of the reasons why they're so pissed off and they're so disconnected from what's happening out there, is that they know that they are being lied to and that they're set up for a world that wasn't built for them to succeed. It was built for their parents to succeed, and their parents aren't leaving this world and leaving the wealth to the next generation. They're accumulating more of it and hoarding it and living in 7-figure homes at 85 years old. Why? You don't need that shit. Like, the whole thing is infuriating. And again, it's the yuppies. They were the hippies that turned into the me generation and the yuppies, and now they're the fucking selfish boomers. And Oz would be the first one to admit that too. I love you, Oz, but your generation is definitely selfish as fuck.
Great and powerful Oz.
He is great and powerful. I agree. The last story I brought is an anecdotal story, but it's apparently been happening more and more often. And there's more to this story than I brought, but I wanted to bring this part of it, which is the story from these ladies themselves. 2 German tourists who also are students, but they're on their like 1-year holiday in between before starting working, right? Yep. 2 German tourists went on holiday to Hawaii for 3 weeks. But they never left the airport. Instead, they were arrested, interrogated for 7.5 hours, accused of intending to work illegally with zero proof. They were held in prison for 3 days, and then they were deported. The warning is do not travel to the USA. Okay. So let's get a little bit more into this story from the perspective of the girls themselves. Pavlov's cat translated an article from German for us. Here's what the young women themselves had to say in an interview in a German outlet. Charlotte Pohl and Maria Lepere wanted to travel to Hawaii and California, but were stopped upon entering the United States and deported to Japan. They asked to. The 2 19-year-olds told their incredible story to Oz. All right? Or OZ or whatever this is. It's, again, a German publication, Otzi Zeitung. Right?
Zeitung.
That's the original article, which I will link in the description. After 5 weeks, each in Thailand and New Zealand, Charlotte Pohl and Maria Lepere plan to continue their world tour in Hawaii in mid-March, then fly on to LA and Costa Rica. However, the 2 Rostock residents are unable to make it there. After landing from Auckland, their U.S. trip ends in prison on the Pacific Island. It was all like a fever dream, says Maria, after her return to the Hanseatic city. U.S. authorities denied entry to Hawaii to the 18-year-old girl and her 19-year-old friend, even though they had the required ESTA, which is the electronic system for travel authorization. All right. After hours of waiting, detention, and individual interrogations, the girls were told their entry was denied and they would be deported. When they heard this, they both burst into tears. It was a shock. We didn't expect it. We'd already noticed a little bit of what was going on in the U.S., but at the time, we didn't think it was happening to Germans. That was perhaps very naive, and we felt so small and powerless. Federal Foreign Office has adjusted travel and security advice now for the USA. Germans has. The 2 high school graduates who graduated from high school last year are still puzzling over the reason for their deportation almost 3 weeks later. They found it suspicious that we hadn't fully booked our accommodations for the entire 5 weeks in Hawaii. We wanted to travel spontaneously, just like we'd done in Thailand and New Zealand. It's really weird. You know, at 20 years old, I did a backpacking trip where I literally was handed a Eurail pass and a budget to spend daily for months and said, just go figure it out. I had no immediate travel plans booked at all. I didn't even know what country I was going to be in from month to month. So I completely understand where these girls are coming from. All right. I've done that kind of travel. After the interrogation protocols had been signed, the handcuffs clicked. With their hands cuffed behind their backs, the two were taken by car to a center, that's the ICE detention center, as the security guards called it, deportation detention until their Hawaiian Airlines flight to Tokyo departed the next day. So they literally get put into jail. At the time, we didn't know it was a prison. We were searched with metal detectors. Our entire bodies were scanned, and we had to stand naked in front of the police officers and were looked through. Then we were given prison clothes and put in a prison cell with serious criminals. Even a murderer who had been in prison for 18 years was among the women. Okay, they said it was like being in a movie. This all can't be true, but they were lucky in their misfortune, she says. Nobody wanted to hurt us. That was our greatest fear. You hear so many horror stories from inside a U.S. prison, especially about abuse of power against young women by the guards as well as by other prisoners.
Mm-hmm.
After a sleepless night, the girls were woken early in the morning and again in handcuffs, taken back to the airport. An officer escorted them aboard the Hawaiian Airlines flight to Tokyo and handed the flight attendant 2 yellow envelopes. They told us if we touched Japanese soil, what else would they fucking do? We'd get our passports back. What the hell were they going to do? The women from Rostock were deported to Japan at their own request. The authorities had originally intended to put them back on a plane to Auckland, New Zealand, from where they had entered the United States. Of course, the flight from Auckland to wherever they're going is ridiculously expensive. Part of the travel documents were the interrogation transcripts they had signed. They contained sentences we didn't actually say. They twisted it to make it seem as if we admitted that we wanted to work illegally in the U.S. So they're even framing these people so that if they ever decided to sue the United States for the way they were treated, they signed something that implied that they were guilty of something substantially worse.
Right.
Fuck ICE. Fuck Trump.
Classic entrapment.
By the way, this also is being done because of Israel. All right. This is mostly being done because of Trump and immigration fear mongering. This has got to do with Venezuelans and sending people to CCOT. It's all interconnected. All right. Disgusting. We treat 19-year-old German girls like this. Why? Why?
The light of America's promise will always burn bright.
That really pissed me off.
Stupid, dude.
You know, and somebody said that their visas or whatever, that they didn't have this or that. I don't know.
When there's, what are those fear-mongering shows about locked up abroad?
Oh, yeah.
You know? Like, how is this any different? If not worse? Like, you didn't do anything. Those other shows, those people did things. You know? Like they smuggled drugs or like these people just showed up, you know, which if my advice is don't show up here.
Well, that's their advice too. Another person said that again, as far as I know, they had booked accommodation for 2 nights and then simply travel the way backpackers travel. You never have accommodations booked for your whole trip because you never know where the road takes you. It's backpacking, the thing Americans do in Europe all the time. I literally just said that. But right. I did that 30 years ago on a Eurail pass.
Yeah.
And I stayed in youth hostels. And I rented a room for the night. And I bunked with people I'd never met before. Right? They apparently don't want that happening here. And I know that Australians have done walkabouts.
We are the United States government. We don't do that sort of thing.
Well, we're demonetized. We're certainly not going to get remonetized for showcasing that ICE is deporting German travelers, backpackers, who had no intent to hurt the United States, who really claim they had no intent to work here. And even if they had, they're in Hawaii. Like, does anybody really give a shit? If you're able to, and of means, Take care of your family, take care of your friends, but please support independent media. The ways that you can do that here at Indie News Network, we have Cash App, $ Indie News Network, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network. And again, Fred Edwards supported independent media with a Ko-fi earlier. Thank you. PayPal.me/Indie News Network. And then again, we've got the newsletters at INN Newsletter and at IndieMediaToday.com. Speaking of Indie Media Today, something happened this past week, and I wanted to note this, and this will get into our lightning round. This is extra that I had not planned to bring. I made this note earlier today. A week ago marked the 4th anniversary since I started a Substack newsletter. I'm going to beat you.
Coming to a Substack newsletter near you. Substack newsletter near you.
Thank you, Rachel. By the way, the New Yorker today announced that they are officially now moving and starting on Substack, their publication.
Are you fucking kidding me?
No. Some tips. I just want to give some people some encouraging tips from what I've learned over the last 4 years. And I've published over 2,000 posts at that platform. Keep at it, even when nobody's reading or engaging. Try to stay consistent with your frequency of posts and posting times to respect your subscribers. Because they signed up for something, you got to kind of commit and deliver on what you commit to. Figure out what works for you and your schedule. Don't be afraid to take chances, but keep people in the loop about your thought process and why you're doing what you're doing. They subscribe because they want to know about that. Connect with like-minded people using notes. It'll help you expand your reach. Transparency is credibility, meaning that the more you share about your process and the behind the scenes, that only gives you more credibility with people. And don't be afraid to take a week or a month off. Nothing goes up in a straight line. And again, I want to thank every one of the 3,600 plus subscribers to Indie Media Today and over 2,000 subscribers to INN Newsletter for supporting my mission to amplify sponsor-free independent media. And I've added that sponsor-free because there's a lot of people claiming they're independent, but they kowtow to sponsors or they omit stories on behalf of sponsors. We do not. We tell the stories we think need to be told. We don't answer to anybody but you. And this shows, again, nothing goes up in a straight line. This is the amount of traffic. It ebbs and flows, but you can see overall the trend line is going in the right direction. All right. That's the number of views per month since I started 4 years ago. And that's the number of subscribers and the growth in subscribers since I started 4 years ago. When my original newsletter got shut down, that was right here in April of 2023. And it's only gone up since then. Now, that's just for Indie Media Today. I did the same thing for INN Newsletter. And again, after that first month, we had a fall off, but you can see it consistently trending in the right direction. And the subscriber count, since I started publishing a daily in August of 2023, has gone much, much higher at a much faster rate. So thank you again. Really appreciate everybody signing up there. There's links there to do that. I'll put that all in the description afterwards. So lightning round, lightning round, lightning round. Okay. What's been happening with China is we've kicked ourselves in the dick unnecessarily.
China.
Yeah. Trump decided that he wanted to implement these tariffs. We talked about that a few weeks ago. China had responded by putting reciprocal tariffs down. But this person at Counterpoint China, Mario Cavolo, published about a week and a half ago that the Trump admin still doesn't understand what happened, that China actually left the room. All right. And I don't know if I 100% agree with this, but I do agree with a lot of it. They still don't understand what's happened. The Trump's team still doesn't get it. Point number one is that China left the room. They already responded to the tariffs. They are responding. Of course, there's going to be some damage, but they were prepared for this day. They're not negotiating. They literally have just moved on. That's a decision, not a negotiation. This person's prediction is that U.S. tech will collapse and is collapsing. Amazon will collapse, and it will be much worse for the U.S. and the world There is no gray area here. There is only one move.
I don't know about Amazon collapsing.
Well, because Amazon is heavily dependent on China.
Yes.
And on drop shipping from China.
Yeah, but I think it'll be all right.
I agree. All right. China has clearly stated what that move is for Trump to remove the tariffs. Again, this was written on April 17th. And what's happened is basically he's backed off on pretty much all the tariffs. Point number 2 is that they are either utterly incompetent or they're doing this on purpose, controlled demolition. With $8 trillion due for refinancing, they need interest rates to plummet. Treasury Secretary Bessent made it clear that their focus is on the bond market, which most people don't pay attention to. Bonds are rising, which means interest rates are falling worldwide. But U.S. bonds are not cooperating. So they need to cause economic upheaval to cause interest rates to go down because this $8 trillion is due for refinancing. And that plan is completely backfiring with disastrous results. They actually believed that that wouldn't happen, but here we are. The situation is getting even worse than it was at the beginning. Is it possible that that's exactly what they want? Well, if you, according to Whitney Webb and the World Economic Forum and all them with the Great Reset, yes, controlled demolition of the global economy. They need this economic chaos. They won't allow any good news. They aren't announcing any good news. They're just doing the opposite. Look at this. This is fucking crazy. And this is why I brought this chart. This is an overlay of 2 years of data for the Dow Jones Industrial Average. All right. In 1987, and we all remember what happened in 1987, overlaid with the current market. We literally just had a 1987 level market crash, and the charts show it.
Yep.
The Dow Jones just fell down to 0, and it's going to be a fine swell day.
Except for everybody's retirement. All right, point 2 is that why? So the world runs to safety of U.S. bonds and the interest rate gets down to 3% so they can refinance that $8 trillion. But the rest of the world was already at its wit's end with America's nonsense, and they're not cooperating. So that interest rate's actually going up, not down. The 2 most important parties in this story are the ones not cooperating with this crazy plan, the bond market and China. So next. This market disaster is going to continue, and the Fed is going to have to once again step in. And when they do, it will fix nothing. The U.S. market will roar higher on the announcement, but the big economic and trade damage is already done and ain't going to be reversed. All right? And that they're not going to fix it. Not Trump, not anyone. These economic deteriorations and gyrations are simply going to continue morphing for decades. Great. Whoever marches to the front of the U.S. political leadership line, they're not going to fix much at all. Yes, they're just going to put stewards in front of it. The system is as broken and corrupted as it gets by design. They won't default either. They'll just keep rotating the ways that they add money to the system, whether it's QE, that's quantified easing, or reverse repo, or whatever names they give it. Or what they'll do is they'll just shift to the digital dollar and they'll make it all tether or whatever. And while the trillions of dollars now in the hands of the private billionaire individuals, hedge funds, corporations, and private equity will never re-enter the system, never to be part of M2 money supply, meaning after they've crashed its economy, they sucked it right out and they're not going to put it back. I want to reference a name here that I don't really, that I probably shouldn't, but Max Azzarello called exactly this a year ago or so, that this was a Ponzi scheme, that Bitcoin was designed to suck all of the real capital out of the system and put it into the private banks for the wealthy and never put it back. Yes, the stock market will crash and go up and double again, while the cost of everything on average in the country will be 50% higher than it is today, whether that's 5, 10, 20 years down the line. All right. The part I can't figure out, nobody can, is What will come first, a deflationary spiral type of disaster or a stagflation type of disaster? Either way, we're heading into one of those disasters. Right now, it's looking like stagflation. Why? Because the world is quietly but surely leaving the U.S. bond market. So that means come hell or high water, real market interest rates are not going to go down. Furthermore, there's going to be inflation of goods prices. So that's a double whammy, pushing up real interest rates no matter what the Fed does. What a fucking mess. All right. I like this article. I don't 100% agree with all of it, but I think that it had some really good points and premises to it. And I definitely think that China has left the table for the most part. They don't need the United States to survive as a country and as an economy. All right. Nope. BYD, ever heard of a car company called BYD? They're the biggest car company in the world, and they don't operate in the United States at all and sell passenger vehicles here. They sell more than Tesla, more than Ford, GM, Toyota, Volkswagen, every other manufacturer. They don't sell a car here. And our government has been fighting like crazy to keep them out here by issuing protectionist tariffs against Chinese-made cars, because the minute they do come into this market, every other market's cars are toast. They are going to take up, because we don't have affordable cars right now, and they make affordable cars. They make a $15,000 car that is as nice as any $30,000 car available here right now. And that scares the shit out of every car maker that's not BYD here. So they've lobbied the federal government to issue protectionist measures like a 100% tariff or more on Chinese vehicles entering the United States, or a ban on Chinese vehicles entering the United States. It's garbage. And meanwhile, who hurts? The U.S. hurts, because the public doesn't get access to these superior cars for less money, and we end up having to pay more for the jacked up prices for the luxury cars that are out there, and even the basic transportation. The average price of a car is, I think, over $30,000 or $40,000 now. Lightning round number 2. Indie Media Award honoree Kyle Anzalone from Anti-War, also Indie Media Award honoree. I did not see many people covering this over the weekend. There was a Russian general murdered by a car bomb in Moscow before talks with the U.S. That was Friday. A top Russian military commander killed by a car bomb near Moscow. Yeah. The attack happened just hours before U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff met with Putin. All right. Putin's a madman, right, Jamal Bowman? Uh-huh. On Friday, Lieutenant General Yaroslav Moskalik was killed by a car bomb in a city near Moscow. He served as deputy chief of the main operations directorate of the General Staff of the Russian Armed Forces. All right. That's the aftermath of the car bombing. Unbelievable. All right.
In a residential area next to a children's playground.
Yep. It's considered a terrorist attack. All right. The main question is how to stop the war in the center of Europe, the world. We see so many victims every day. Even today, a Russian general was killed in a terrorist attack in Moscow. Ukraine has conducted similar bombings in Russia during the war, and I would think that this would be laid at the feet of Ukraine. I saw other people suggesting that this could also have had UK British influence, that this is very much a reminder of a British op. All right. Trump has repeatedly stated that he wants to bring the war to an end. In recent days, he called on Kiev to recognize Moscow's control over Crimea. Zelensky firmly rejected this proposal. Of course, we saw what happened at the Pope's funeral over the weekend, where they had very few words for each other. And Trump basically had, I believe, 5 words, which is get it done. All right. You fucker is the other 2. Not really. This statement is very harmful to the peace negotiations with Russia, in that Crimea was lost years ago under the auspices of President Barack Hussein Obama, and not even a point of discussion. No, it's not. Mm-hmm. Russia has gotten Crimea back. I also wanted to give a shout out to an account that I really have enjoyed a lot on Twitter. Not many people have shown this account. I think that it's been brilliant. Some of our friends in our Twitter DM threads have been sharing them. And this is for all the Trump supporters out there who fell for it again. And some of these are just fucking brilliant. So it started out that it was this one. It was the MAGA hat guy wearing a big fell for it again award. And they would basically quote tweet, all right, here, Trump's team is considering war options against Iran, including airstrikes, right? So they fell for it again, right? So it started with the one, and it was like that for several weeks. And then they started pumping out new ones. I don't think we can come up with the demand. And that was, again, if you earn under $360,000 per year, your taxes are going to go up under Trump's tax proposals. Yep, fell for it again. All right, this one I was not crazy about because this also was, that if you were a Palestinian supporter that voted bullshit. Although if you were pro-Palestine and you thought Trump would do any better, you fell for it again too, I hate to say, because he's canceling student visas. Mm-hmm. So if you did vote for Trump because of that, you fell for it again. All right, then they were just piling up so bad they're literally coming out your pores. Okay, then they're encompassing you to the point that we can't even see anything but your hat. All right. Then it really starts to get crazy. It's, I guess we're working overtime. Right. Then they're so buried that you can barely see them under the pyramid. Then you have the dinosaurs going extinct from all the fell for it again awards that are falling on them from the sky. Okay. Then you've got the screeching, screaming, MAGA hat wearing lunatic. And then you've got the cry some more lunatic, fell for it again. Okay. Then it evolved even further and got darker. Here's, this one I think was when the stock market went down. NASDAQ down 1,000 points, down at 3.8%. This is the MAGA hat wearer staring at his computer screen, fell for it again. Okay. Then it's another deep, dark hole. All right. A research scientist at a major university who voted for Trump, regretting it, and here fell for it again award again. Then they get even darker. Here's Trump's MAGA shooting Uncle Sam in the head, and still MAGA cradling him and falling for it again. The fell for it again.
I think this account's kind of bullshit myself.
Well, you can.
But
all right. Chase Miller has been sharing them. They're breaking the machine now. Oh fuck, they're coming out so fast they can't keep up. This one is one of my favorites. The crypto bros, once Bitcoin started to take its fall, because of course that's going to happen because it's a Ponzi. All right. Then it starts to get really silly. All right. This is Apple plans to source more iPhones from India. So that's definitely what MAGA wanted, right? And then there's, would you look at the time? More stock market falling. Oh, that's one I hadn't seen yet. That's good. All right. Then finally, it starts to get really silly toward the end. But my favorite one is, where's the Israel one?
Always really silly.
There's one where he's embarrassed. This is good. The SS fell for it again because we now need a container ship to carry all the fell for it again awards. So, and then of course you've got SpongeBob. All right, he's in there with SpongeBob that says, "Hey man, you're polluting our fucking neighborhood." Well, these fell for it again awards. Very good. All right. So again, fell for it again _ fell for it again A on Twitter is all of these. And of course, Taylor Swift, she voted for Trump, right? Yeah, no, fell for it again. Nope, she's not pro-Trump either. All right. So that was a little fun. Now, not so fun. World Socialist website. Again, a story I had not heard anybody talking about. A death at JFK 8. Everybody remembers JFK 8. They very famously voted to unionize Chris Smalls. Then he sold them out to the Teamsters. Interestingly enough. All right. Amazon workers. A worker died at JFK 8 Fulfillment Center in Staten Island last Wednesday evening. Following the death, workers on 2 successive shifts forced management to temporarily shut the facility for most of the following day. Workers were able to win compensation for the closed shifts from management. The worker has been identified as Leone Salcedo Chevalier, 34, a father of 2. He was struck by a box truck as it was backing up into the loading dock at around 11 p.m. Salcedo Chevalier was rushed to Richmond University Medical Center where he was pronounced dead. Driver remained at the scene. Preliminary accounts suggest that he was in the driver's blind spot, and of course no arrests have been made because it was an accident. Accidents do happen. It's terrible, but both the victim and the driver were employed by subcontractors and were not direct Amazon employees. How convenient. Several thousand employees work at JFK 8, which made international news in 2022. The walkouts were nominally sanctioned by ALU, which has since merged with the Teamsters Union, but the push to close the facility was largely spontaneous. This reflects not only the determined mood among workers at the facility, it expresses the seething anger among workers across the country, especially at the Trump admin, as they carry out its war against the working class. All right. One worker said that it closed for 4 hours from 6 hours until 5 the next day. All right. Oh, actually, no, it's not 6. It's 18 hours. When the new shift started, workers were angry. The bulletin board was filled with notes talking about the lack of respect shown by management toward the guy who was killed and about forcing us to go back so quickly after it happened. They pretended to care about safety, but they don't. All right. They put the responsibility on individual workers. They walk around telling people you're not wearing the correct shoes and little things like that, but that's not supposed to prove they care about safety. But they don't do anything when it comes to bigger safety issues. Another one said, you hear, my friend works at Costco. They have fluorescent vests with flashers attached. So even if you're in a blind spot, the driver knows you're there because they can see the light from the flashers. They don't use those here. You just get the vests. All right. Someone else didn't even know about the death because they were just coming to work. They should have shut the whole place down. And you've got other anecdotal stories from workers. All right. It's just the latest in a long line of work-related injuries and deaths at Amazon. We talked very famously about the death in Carteret that Chris Smalls was even silent about, I remember. He showed up like a week later at the facility, but they weren't part of JFK 8. In the sweltering summer, here you go, of 2022, 3 Amazon workers at a facility in New Jersey, facilities died due to excessive heat. All right. Then you've got Shannon Allen. WSWS has reported extensively on conditions at Amazon. So have we. We talked with Heather over from the Albany warehouse. We've talked with Michelle, who still, I believe, works occasionally at JFK 8. She does shifts there. Amazon responds ruthlessly to all expressions of opposition. This was shown, for example, in its unpaid suspension of as many as 80 workers who refused to return to work immediately after a fire at JFK 8. I remember we covered that. Meanwhile, Dick Rocket Bezos has thrown his support behind Trump because he'll support whoever's in the White House, who systemically is dismantling all regulatory agencies, even partially limiting the operations of American corporations. All right, so fuck Amazon, fuck Trump. And again, a worker died at JFK 8, and I don't think anybody else talked about it, but we're going to, and we're going to mention it. And then finally, we've got our friends that do need help with GoFundMes. I mentioned this last night. These are the only ones I'm bringing from last night. Also tonight, our friend Shanda with her GoFundMe fighting small cell lung cancer. She's up to $915. We donated $50 from INN last night. Again, that's part of what you guys do is you help us be able to give mutual aid to people that we feel really need it And we are willing to sacrifice a little bit ourselves. You know, look, we're all a community here. Is it more important that we pay our Restream bill or that Shanda gets $50 towards her GoFundMe so that she can pay for her bills while she's fighting cancer? Because fuck cancer. All right. And similarly, and thank you to Natalie, by the way. I saw that Natalie had donated to Andrew's GoFundMe for Anna Marie for her brain tumors. They are going to Cincinnati and they're going to have to spend weeks there. And that's going to be out of pocket. I actually messaged Andrew and told him that we talked about it. And he said, I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate you. And dude, no, we appreciate you. And it's literally the least we can do. We love you, man. And we're trying to get you to 5,000. We still know that 5,000 is still a drop in the bucket. And we'll keep pushing that number higher and higher, hopefully, because we know you need it. And we love you, man. Again, I told you about the newsletter. So 7 C's, go listen to that. I also am going to put out the Uncensored Boats as a podcast. I decided that I'm not going to do boats every week as a podcast on INA Newsletter, but I will put the uncensored ones out. I think that makes sense to do because in case anybody ever does decide to pull it down, that's one place they're never going to pull it down from. So check out INA Newsletter for the Uncensored Boats, which I'll put out Thursday nights, which I'll put out sometime on Thursday. Well, we're not doing shows. Also, IndieNewsNow.com, our news aggregator site where we are also live. So you can watch us live whenever we're live at INN, ad-free, platform-free, right here at our website, IndieNewsNow.com. You also can get a feed of all of the latest news, and I have well over 100 sources pumping in 24/7 articles, videos, and podcasts. So subscribe for free, go there, set a bookmark, and make that your daily homepage. IndieNewsNow.com. Again, Hard Lens, Clips, Payday Report, Sabby Sabs, JB Font, RBN, Derek Bros, Last American Vagabond, AM Wake Up. All right. Then you've got Common Dreams and Truth Out. It's all here. Also, all the How Do We Miss That clips and segments, IndieMediaToday.com feeds here, INN Newsletter feeds here, and I'm bringing in things like Freight Waves to bring in logistics data and logistics news. All right, I'm bringing in The Dissident and Sludge. All right, I'm just scrolling down. Robert Inlakesh from Windpress News. All right, and Consortium News. It's all here. Even Due Dissident's Substack. You can find it here at IndieNewsNow.com. All right. One more time, if you are able to, Anna means, again, I would really rather you gave to Shanda or Anna Marie. If you have a couple more bucks and you want to help out INN, that'd be great. Okay. Cash App, Indie News Network, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, paypal.me/Indie News Network. All right. I love you, man. Golden Monarch, I very much appreciate Indie Reef, INN. We're among the few indie outlets that have talked about debunking Michael Saylor. It's funny, disturbing, not enough indie media has even said this, or even knows who Michael Saylor is, or what MicroStrategy is, or what they're trying to do, and the Ponzi scheme that MicroStrategy is. It is amazing. All right, Cowboy Kitty, yeah, fuck cancer, kill your egregores. I know Shanda loves you too. Fuck cancer. Desert Mantis, thank you. Really, everyone. Sean, love you, man. So, hope you enjoyed your bonus. How do we miss that? That was it, man. That's what I got. But look, like I said, it was another 2 hours worth of stuff. I knew that it was going to be another show's worth. Good question, Monarch. To anyone who watched Shanda, did she comment anything about RFK's commentary about autism? I don't know. I didn't see that part, but that would be a good question to ask. He's backtracked a lot about mRNA.
I can tell he's fucking stupid.
And about you know the MMR vaccines and aluminum and all that, and all of a sudden now everything is safe and effective, and he's towing the line, and everything that people you want to talk about fell for it again? You might as well give all those fell for it again awards to all the Kennedy supporters too. to all the Tulsi supporters as they watch
artificial dyes. Okay.
Or to the Cash Patel supporters also, to all of them. All right, fell for it again and again and again. That's what they've been doing. All right, everyone, I'm spent. Thank you for bearing with me for an extra night. I'll clip these up. I'll have them out throughout the week at Indie Media Today and at INN YouTube. We'll put them out also on my Rumble channel. That's the Indie at INN Rumble channel. Rumble.com/C/independent left news. It still has the old name. All right. So support independent media because we need it more than ever, folks. Love you all. See you soon.
Keep listening to what little birds have to tell you. Good night, fam. Oh, nope. I gotta hit the buttons.
Bye, Felicia.
No! We just fucking lost the stream.
I think I liked it better being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines, and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. I thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry.
My favorite songs don't hit the same way. I get to the end of a 4-minute track and I'm only looking back thinking, what did they actually say?
Can't keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your heads. Why play civil if you won't listen to 50,000 dead? And now we know our mission, we form a militia, make Congress a prison. No, I play civil when all these dead won't make you listen.
What's more American than slaying your oppressors? What's more American than liberty or death first? God, I thought we were founded on abolishing the tyranny of those who would starve a village all to live empirically. And I regret that I have only one life to give for my cause now that I can see the cause so clearly. See, I want our leaders, regardless of party, to fear